Welcome to another episode of Konversations. Of course, I am your host, Kristin Coral. It has definitely been, I want to say, a couple of weeks already since I've done my last episode. And I give a lot of part of that to everything that's been going on in this world. So we started with a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the issues that have definitely been going around this world today, which no one here is blind to, thankfully. And, I think one of the biggest things for myself, at least, which I feel like I just have to be honest with everyone, is I just took a little bit of a long-term mental health check. So I kind of took a little time away from the show. And, now we have the whole political things going on, and we have an election coming up, which I hope everyone is registered to vote and is doing the right thing. So I feel like I'm in a good space. There's been a lot of things going on, and I am ready to jump back into another episode. And I have two amazing, wonderfully amazing people with me today.
Where?
They go by name. Acting's already jumping in. They are two incredible actors. They do so much more in the world as well. But I want to introduce two people who I definitely already am inspired by so much in this world and this industry. Nathan and Gabrielle Reid. Perfect. How are you guys?
Good. Moving and shaking, day by day. A lot of what you were saying, just trying to readjust to this new moment. I refuse to call it the new normal because I have to keep reminding myself that even the Black Plague was followed by the Renaissance. So we're going to make it out at some point. It's just, it's a weird moment right now, and it feels just really cruddy. But fortunately, we have a tiny little human that runs around here, keeping it real all the time.
Yep.
There is always a schedule. There's always something to do. So he's definitely made it very, I would say, better for us.
Yeah. So we have a 16-month-old son.
Yes.
That's the
tiny
human. Yeah, the tiny human whose name is Dash, and we love him.
Yeah, so. He's amazing.
Yep.
So that jumps me into actually a perfect question that I wanted to ask the both of you. With, everything that's going on now, we've all been making adjustments. Obviously, I always say this is the quarantine live sessions, so anything goes. I know in the first episode, I cut it out of the actual edited version, but my ring light fell on me. And I thought it was really funny, but it didn't make it into the final version. How have you guys been adjusting? I mean, congratulations on your little baby. He's so cute, by the way.
Thank you.
So adorable.
Thank you.
But what kind of adjustments have you been making? What's been like the hardest thing for the both of you?
I'm gonna take this. I sort of say, like, we as artists are such social creatures, and I think even as human beings we're social creatures. So we really get a lot of positivity off of hanging out with friends and just saying hello. And also, you'll notice that, like, when you hang out with your friends, you actually just really talk about life and what's going on, and how's this going, and how's your show going, and whatever it is. And now I think the hardest adjustment, I don't want to say it's an adjustment, I'm really making a point. I ran into a friend of mine, Adia, on the street. And funny enough, I didn't actually recognize her because she had completely changed her hair and was wearing a mask. So she went, "Nathan!" And I went, and I had no idea. And she went, "Adia!" And I was like, "Oh my God, of course." Because, you're not seeing 50% of their face, and especially if they change their hair.
Yeah.
And in my conversation with her, I really made a point of going, "How are you?" But not the give me the run-of-the-mill answer, really checking in with artists on, especially, we obviously do a little bit better because we have a child who has a schedule and he has stuff that he has to do. Mm-hmm. But also remembering that if you are a single female or a single male living by yourself, that can get really isolating. And it's acknowledging the fact that that can be isolating. So I think in our conversations, we're also putting a voice to who are you checking in with? Who are you talking with? What's going on? Mentally, how are you doing? And just allowing people to also go, I'm not really doing that great. And realizing that it's not that that's okay. It's okay to say. And it's okay to not give the standard kind of run-of-the-mill answer. So I've been making a conscious decision to change that narrative and to also let people know. I think like last week, I just wasn't doing great.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. And just telling people, I'm not doing great. And it's tough. And it's, and I'm not pretending that everything's great, everything's fine, and it's like, it's not.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And I think that's part of why I felt like I had to start this episode just like admitting that as well. A lot of people, especially as creatives, I feel like you guys can probably relate. The main question I'm always getting, especially since I've started this show, is when's the next one? When are you doing another episode? Or, it's been 2 weeks, we need another episode. Who's your next guest? And, for a long time, especially after, let me just admit someone that's coming in. For a long time, I for a couple of weeks at least, like I mentioned before, I feel like, I had to be honest with myself. And I think mentally I wasn't prepared to do an episode, or, with everything going on, I didn't feel like the guests that I wanted to speak with lined up with the matters, at hand. So I think it's awesome. And especially that you guys have each other, that you're able to lean on one another. You seem, really mature and open-minded about how you guys deal with one another. And Gabrielle, I have not personally met you in person yet, but I definitely get that just from, Nate and I follow each other on Facebook, and I started following you on Instagram. But I think that's a really important part of right now. And I kind of always preach that when I say be kind to one another, and, really check on your friends, like check on your peers. This quarantine has been tough on a lot of people. I'm single and I live by myself. And I know a lot of people out there don't have someone to kind of lean on, even if it's immediately, because sometimes you check on your friends through text and they're not available. So, having each other, I think that's like something really amazing, especially now that you have a little one running around and taking your minds off of things. So I kind of want to go into how you guys, I don't want to say how you guys first started, but Nate and I met on the set doing background work on the set of I Can't Remember What?
You don't have to.
I don't remember.
They all
blend
together.
Into
and even if you could remember it, here's how the conversation goes. Oh, it was that thing. Oh yeah. And then that's the end of the conversation. I think it was just that your that old idiom, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad saying to me,
sorry, I forgot to turn the baby monitor on.
Yeah. So that, if you, like, I don't know, they probably can't hear the buzzing, but yes, baby monitor.
No, I can't hear it.
Safety.
Yeah.
My dad said to me, don't have anybody in your life that you wouldn't allow to babysit your son.
Oh, that's a great one.
Doesn't that change things
And
a little bit?
all of a sudden it changes things, because you'll see a lot of the narratives of going, oh, you can't cut people out because they have a different point of view of you or whatever it is. And I was like, wait a second. Actually, you can. I was like, there's no set of rules that basically now define that you are, what is this, forced friendship? Is this like, well, so-and-so believes that kids are expendable and that you shouldn't put that much time into them. And you go, I don't want you in my life. And that's okay. So yeah, it does, yes, we met and we immediately clicked and got along, and it was fabulous, and we've kept in touch ever since. So
yeah, and I think it's awesome. I think it's one of those things that, when you're on set, especially, you keep meeting people constantly, and you don't always keep in touch with people that you meet, especially when you're doing background work. Like I haven't done background work in a while. But there are a few people, like you said, that sometimes like the vibe just is there, or even I think honestly the day that we were on set, I don't think I was, because I think back to that day, and I know we all went into like deep conversation, and I think there was like something going on that one of us must have been feeling some way. But I'm glad that we carried on that friendship and that we kept in touch. And Gabrielle, you helped me 2 days ago. I want to say it was 2 days ago. I had an audition And I was like, what am I supposed to wear? And what am I supposed to look like? And what color should I wear? What's going to compliment me? And Nate was like, I know the perfect person for this. I'm going to pass this on to her, which I'm so glad that he did.
I have a woman for you. Here you go.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, because I know a little background on Nate, and I want to dive into that. But tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. Youngest of 3. I'm the bit of the weirdo of the family. My sister's a teacher, my brother's a nurse anesthetist, and I'm like, hi. Like, so not the academic kid at all. Unfortunately, my parents were very understanding and got that from a very young age. So I left Ohio and went to college at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy here, and that's where I met this fool. And then have, by the graces of all the things, I've been working pretty consistently, at least just, being able to pay the bills and things like that. Haven't won my Emmy yet, but I'm getting there. Yeah, and then he and I reconnected, should I say, in, what was it, end of 2005 or so? And that was the real cemented start of our story, even though it's much longer than that. But
we've never been able to Cliff Notes our story, and even if someone's like,
it's a whole episode.
Like, it's like, give us the Cliff Notes version, and 30 minutes later, you're like, that was actually well done, because like that's the
it's actually that long of a crazy story.
That's the abridged version.
But yeah, moved here doing mostly musical theater. Then when I reconnected with him, I was doing a show in Vegas, and we unfortunately got our closing notice in 7 days. Ooh. And I was like, hey, remember how we were talking about moving in together? And he's like, yeah. And this was like Monday. And I was like, what do you think about Sunday? What? And I was like, I lost my job. I have nowhere to go. I had a sublet in my apartment for a year in New York. And I was like, I kind of don't want to kick her out in 7 days. He was like, well, okay. And he drove down to Vegas, picked me up, and then I moved to LA with him and started dipping my toes into commercial, a little bit of film and TV. And then we moved back to New York, 2011.
You hijacked me. You hijacked me. That was a hijack.
Yes.
You and I love this conversation because I was in LA, you were in New York auditioning, and you called me and you were like, hey, babe, remember how we actually talked about like moving to New York? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, are you still down for it? And I was like, well, yeah. When were you thinking about possibly making that
Sunday?
And she's like, well, it's November 28th right now. What do you think about December 11th? That was a real conversation. I was like, you mean 13 days from now? And she was like, yep. And she came home from auditioning, packed up the entire apartment, and moved us across the United States. And then this fool booked a show in Utah. So she moved me across and then booked a show in Utah, and literally like kind of left me in a great way. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't think I'm ever complaining, because my whole career completely took off since I was in New York, because it forced me to like, well, now you
stand on your own 2 feet.
You got to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And then when she got back from Utah, you booked Beautiful.
Yeah. I like dived back into musical theater, which got me a little bit of standing room to be able to get into film and TV more. Which
it seems like you kind of make the decisions around here. The long
term. And I was like, you're doing it.
Yeah. You did.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys, obviously now I can kind of ask you this, because it's always a thing with actors and Hollywood, right? They say, if you live in New York, you should move to LA. And then when you're in LA, it almost seems like they bring all the productions from LA to New York. Mm-hmm. So what's your take? I don't know who prefers to answer this, but what's your take on the idea of, if you're pursuing an acting career, you should be moving to LA?
I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Okay. Because nowadays, I think it's a mixed bag. I think you should try both to see where you're comfortable at. Because, for instance, I think when we were in LA, it was very much still film and TV in LA, musical theater, Broadway, theater, straight acting kind of things, New York. It was still pretty separated. Because I remember when I would even, in the beginning, when I was going in for commercial stuff, I could feel them stamping the musical theater stamp on my forehead. They like just could not get past that my resume was all musical theater. And I was like, I just got here. What do you expect? But nowadays, though, with all of the things of digital media, streaming, productions are going anywhere and everywhere so that it's cheaper, and they finally get there. There is so much more film and TV here. So I think a lot of it just has to do with the feeling of the city and where you are comfortable. Like now, I think I could probably go to LA and do the film and TV gig because I just have more experience in it. Because for me, LA chewed me to pieces. I have never been unconfident in my life. Like, and I mean, we all go through it as actors where we get a little like, oh, I like, you question yourself. But I mean, on a daily basis, like going to the grocery store, I was like, oh my God, is my shirt cute enough to go to Ralph's today? It's Saturday. Am I cute enough? I literally was like, I don't know what to do. LA really, really put me in a weird position, and that I never, ever had when I was in New York. I moved here at 17 years old, and I was like, let's go, world. Like, I was ready. And the 5 years that I was in LA, I never questioned myself more in my life. And so there was something about the grit and the dirt and the hustle bustle of New York that makes my engine go. Whereas LA, for some reason, I couldn't see through the whatever it was there, and it just did not bode well for me. So I think a lot of it just has to do with, honestly, where your soul feels right. Because if you don't feel right, it ain't gonna happen. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's just like, you're just not gonna feel the same way going into a room, being able to put your best foot forward, the whole thing, if your mind is not really there.
Yep.
So
I wish we could fake that, and we can't. It is something
it's hard.
Remember that whole thing of like, try not to pretend like you need the job, even though you need the job. So you try not to pretend. It's just like that whole, and then you have your moment where you, whenever it comes to an individual, they finally go, oh my God, I actually walked into that room and didn't need the job. Yeah. Wasn't hostile about it. Wasn't like, I don't need this job, because that is the wrong energy to have. Yeah. But really, and what's so funny is I went through that whole like emotional thing with Blacklist.
Yeah, sure.
Before I booked it. Like, that journey for me of like, okay, I really want this. Oh my God, I really need this. I don't like this show anymore. Like, I mean, like, I'm not going in for the show. I mean, like, turning down auditions. I was doing that. And because that was how I was feeling. It wasn't the smart decision to make, but it was how I was feeling. And then I finally let it go. And that was when I booked it. And I was like, I wish we could fake that. Yeah. I wish I could skip the whole
and that
journey.
was like your 10th time going in.
No. That was my 19th time.
Oh my God.
Really? Oh,
wait, before you go any further, because I did want to get into that. I do remember that very vividly. And talk about why so many times. Like, was it always with the same casting directors? Talk about that process just a little briefly, and then actually when you did book it.
Because we both did the show. It was my 4th time when I booked it. And I literally was like, well, and in my head, obviously, we all know if casting keeps calling you, you're doing something right.
Yep.
Just keep going. They're trying to find something for you. Just go in there and be wonderful. Yep. Whether or not you get it or not, you're just not right for this. We always say redheaded Asian they wanted. I am not a redheaded Asian.
Every time she doesn't get something, we just shrug and we go, redheaded Asian.
I'm like, okay, that's not my look.
Yeah.
So then finally at that 3rd one, I was like, I'm just not Blacklist, I guess. I'm just not. And of course, the 4th one that comes in, I ended up getting it. It was like perfect. I was like baby store clerk, like perfect. It was ridiculous. It was such a great role. But it's just one of those things about staying consistent. And when that does happen, the casting director is literally moving hay needles to find something for you. Yep. He's trying to find that specific thing that's going to make it pop. And
I was talking to the casting director of Blue Bloods, who I have been in for over.
Oh my God, that's the show that we met on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
And you did it.
I've been in for Blue Bloods for over 20 times, and I had a very heart-to-heart conversation with the casting director. Like, by the 20th time, you're actually going in and having a. Oh wait, did she?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh no.
She was like, we have to, like, let's just have a real conversation. Just totally off camera. We're not even rolling. She goes, let me break down this show for you. She goes, we do Blue Bloods, which means you are either the cop or the person the cop is chasing.
Huh.
That is Blue Bloods. Every single episode. Now, if they're auditioning for Blue Bloods, you are auditioning for the cop or the person the cop is changing. So imagine the breakdowns of what goes out to every single agent and manager, okay? On paper, they're like, oh my God, we need to see Nathan. But here's the crazy part. If you watch Blue Bloods, if you really watch Blue Bloods, all of the cops are probably, we're talking like not the series regulars, we're talking like one-day guest stars or whatever it is, okay? They are usually over 40, sometimes 50 looking, okay? So you would think, oh my God, Nathan can book this without it, whatever it is. But I am not cop. I am not blue collar. It doesn't matter what you do to my hair. It doesn't matter what you do to my face. In fact, if you shave my face, I become 14. And she can attest to that. I just look like I left college and I'm still living off my parents. This is why I usually don't get rid of my gruff, but you have to know that about your brand. And brand is so unbelievably important, because if you don't know that, you are going to think that you are doing something wrong. And I had a conversation with my reps. This is a true conversation, and you have to know this about your career. I said, no more cops. Do not send me in for any more cops. It's not that I'm not doing a good job. It's that on, let's say that I've had 20 auditions, probably out of those 20, I've had 7 callbacks, and out of those 7 callbacks, I had 1 director session, okay? The director session was for a multi-episode character arc of a stepfather who was like, had his kids kidnapped or something like that, was after them. That is the farthest thing from a cop.
Yeah.
But it's the role that I was right for. So interestingly enough, that's what usually plagues artists. And I actually had a couple of actors ask me, and this is no fault of our own, it's kind of what we're taught. They're like, do you think you're doing something wrong? That question will literally kill actors and artists' careers, because then you get in your head and think that you're not acting correctly or something like that. And they're not focusing on the fact that if Blue Bloods didn't like me, I would have been in for them once, maybe twice. Maybe twice. But I've been in for them over 20 times. How many times has Lifetime called me in? We have such a humorous relationship. Like Lifetime movies, it's literally like when it's casting season for Lifetime movies, there was one I had in a 2-month period. I think I had 19 auditions for
what's with you and the number 19? I want to ask you that.
Yeah, I know.
I honestly,
I mean, it was something. It was really
when
something
you get over 15 and they all kind of start blurring together, you're like, I've been in a lot.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at the positivity of going, oh my God, do you know how many actors and artists would kill to have 15 to 20 auditions over a 2-month period? But in being that actor and artist, no matter what we tell ourselves, we know that psychologically we're not defined by the booking. We get that as a theory, okay? But it doesn't do a lot for our soul.
It's really a lot. I think it's very heavy. I did want to ask you about that as well, because like I said, I had an audition a couple days ago, and Gabrielle helped me with deciding on what to wear. And it was my first audition. I haven't done a lot of auditions. My first audition ever came from my first acting class. So I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with, Eileen Starger. She's done like X-Men movies and stuff, and she's casted really good stuff. She doesn't do too many classes or workshops, but when I first started digging into this whole acting thing and seeing like, is it really possible? Because we always think in the beginning, I don't know exactly how long ago you started, but when I first had the idea, I was like, this seems like unreal, and it doesn't seem like I have to go to LA. And I said, let me take an acting class, and I was one of like 6 people, and everyone was doing like theater since they were, or even like High School Musicals. Ever since they were a kid, they've been doing these things. And she like went around asking everybody their experience. And she's like, so what's your, and I'm like, this is my first class. I've never done any musicals, and I've never done this. And I was like, hi, I'm here, and I'm just here to learn. And it ended up really going really well. And I was just shocked about the whole thing. She brought me in for an audition like a week later. She emailed me saying, hey, I don't think you fit the age range, but I think you'd be great for this role. If you could just agree to come in, at least they could see you and they can get familiar with you. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, when it comes to auditions, you know, they say, do the audition, bring the best you, and let it go. What's your take on that, on kind of just booking the room versus booking the audition?
Bryan Cranston had a great piece of advice. Of course, I'm paraphrasing what he said, is that he goes, I am a professional auditioner.
Yeah.
He said, that is my job.
Have to be.
My job is to audition. Your job is not to book the thing.
No.
Booking the thing is that's the icing. That's the easy part. You get 20 takes, you know, to do the right thing and whatever it is. And you had a whole experience with Bull, where it's just like her technical jargon, which she had to speak on Bull, was like crazy paragraphs long, and all the leads came up to her and they were like, "Girl, it's okay." You're like, "It's okay.
I have my script in my pocket. There's a you're okay, you're doing great." Like the leads of the show. And I was like, okay. Because of course the script supervisor kept coming up to me being like, it's the and not that. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Little things. The writer was so meticulous about what he wrote and everything. It was incredible. So go.
Yeah. So
I'll piggyback.
I think, and this is also why I think protecting your camp is so important, is unfortunately negativity spreads. And you'll see it a lot on sets where not only are people negative, people want other people to be negative. They want other people to sort of share in their misery. So they will not only, I have heard so many false things spread on set that I will actually not start fights, but I will step in and go, that is actually completely incorrect. I was like, I've produced 5 movies. Here's where you can find those 5 movies. Here's my freaking list and my resume. That is so inaccurate. I need you to stop spreading that lie. Because if I didn't do that, what happens is that like a bad piece of information, that gets spreads around. And then if you don't know anything but that then becomes your truth. You then start operating on that truth. And what's even worse is when you start having to convince yourself that it was your idea. That's terrible. So what we do is, in this household, is what's great is we coach each other. And she's a phenomenal freaking coach. We're up to the point now to where like the coaching is, that was good. There's nothing, I mean, she's nailing it because she's already done the prep work, because she's sort of done that work. But you have to have a great environment in order to audition in. You also have to have somebody that knows how to tweak what you're doing to help you sort of book the job. I know that a friend of mine, Lucas, now does, you know, coaching for people over Zoom. The reason why that's important is if I didn't have Gabrielle, I would have a coach, depending on the size of the audition, because you just need that third eye of somebody who really knows what they're looking for. And I think Lucas, over the last like 2 years, has done like, I think 13 television spots, and he recurs on another series. So it's like, this is not somebody who acted 20 years ago and then now is coaching people. And there may be phenomenal coaches that actually do that, but I would love somebody who's currently in the trenches, who's actually, you know, doing that. I mean, I can't coach Gabrielle on her musical theater auditions. So she has, you know, when that comes around, she has people that sort of takes care of that. So I think that for auditioning is going, you have to, you know, just like kind of this interview, you have to have somebody that goes, oh, you've gone in 10 times for this show. That's awesome. Just keep going. Literally just keep going. Because otherwise I think you'll just shoot yourself in the foot.
And I think it's funny too, coming from a musical theater world where, you know, with film and TV, everything is very agent based. There is no, sorry, I thought I heard a rustle on, on the monitor.
We're listening for our son. It has these little green light.
The little green light things. I heard a rustle, but I was like, nope.
I think to me is like a movie, and I've been watching Haunting of Bly Manor. So when you like did, I was like, what? What are we?
So good.
We're on episode 4.
So good. If you're not watching it, watch it. Everyone in the lands. So anyway, film and TV is very agent based. All of the auditions come from either having an agent or having some sort of in to the things. Whereas musical theater, there's either open calls, like
Calls.
non-union open calls, or there's union open calls where you can actually go and show yourself. And I always tell people that I'm like, if you're not going to those, that's about half of your job. Because sure, if you have a really great agent that's just getting you all the things, wonderful, but that's like the 1% of folks.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people are either booking or at least building their relationship through those auditions. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many back in the day that obviously I didn't get a call back from, or I absolutely screwed up so bad, but I wouldn't know that about myself if I didn't go. I would know that, oh, that song is not the one I should choose for that, or that was not the dance call I should go. I'm not going in for that show anymore because that dance is not my thing. You know what I mean? Or whatever. But I wouldn't know unless I went, unless I was, because if I'm sitting around waiting for an agent to get me in, I wouldn't know. And not to mention, it helps them on the other side.
Yeah.
Because they might submit for something and that casting director is like, oh my God, I just saw her for XYZ. She wasn't right for this, but she might be right for this. All right, let's send her, let's bring her in. You know what I mean? It's 95% of the job. It really is. It really, really is.
Yeah. I sort of, and you and I, could have a completely sidebar 30-minute question on this, because I obviously am on the producing side of things. And people are very well aware of the things that I produce because I've worked up to, over a 5-year period. My first project was 50,000. My next project was 200,000. My project after that was 500,000. And now I'm on 2.2 million. That was literally my trajectory, right? But I keep having.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
You guys are freaking me out.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, that trajectory sucked. I mean, it sucked because I was the person that went, and I just actually talked about this in another Zoom interview yesterday, to where this is my analogy, okay? Being an actor and being an artist, you are signing up for the shittiest game of Monopoly ever.
Yes.
Ever. Okay? And it's the same shitty game for every single person. There's community chess. I mean, this is like the analogy. And here's what's great. No one likes Monopoly. No one. I have seen relationships end. I beat my father when I was 17.
Still to this day won't play Monopoly.
I'm 41. I beat my dad when I was 17 years old, and he refused to play me, and I was 17 years old, and I'm now 41. To give you an idea, still won't play, of how horrible of a game Monopoly is. That is the acting industry, okay? And it's the same dice, and it's the same horrible things, but here's what I sort of tell people, okay? Everyone likes to say, oh, acting is a business, and they say it, but they don't really go any deeper, okay? Here's your responsibility as an artist is, do you currently know what's happening with SAG-AFTRA and all the health insurance stuff? If you're not, then you're taking a back seat and you're going to be one of the people that complain about what's happening, but you have no idea what's happening. There's something currently happening with equity, which is also terrible with the Zoom performances and whatever it is. And what I mean by you've got to be in the know, there's a Deadline article, which I can obviously send to you if you ever want to read it, where 87% of scripted shows, 87% are pre-packaged. If you don't know what that means, I'm going to be rough with you. You're not an artist. You're not, because that's your business. You have to know, what does packaging mean? Why is it done that way? Why are people fighting against it? That's the horrible game of Monopoly that everyone has signed up for. What I decided to do is I decided to go, that's a horrible game of Monopoly. I'm going to go build an extra set of dice. That's all I did. I still play the same game. I still go into the same auditions. I still take the same classes. I still take the same casting director workshops, depending on who it is. I do the mailings. I do the this. I do the that. I do all of it. But I also build an extra set of dice. And every time I talk to artists about that extra set of dice, you know what the majority of them say? That sounds like a lot of work.
But that's what this is.
Yeah. And so the example that my producing partner, Jody Bentley, gave me, and this is a rough kind of cutting blade for artists, is that she taught a weekend on the business of being an actor and branding and how to market yourself. And it was genius because it treated you like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. knowing your brand. Okay. And she goes, I think it was like $650 for the weekend. And I took it and it was phenomenal and it changed my life.
Right.
She goes, do you know that I have trouble filling these seats? And I said, no, I didn't know that. And she goes, but do you know how many actors will pay $1,000 for a headshot session? Now, headshots should run that much. Absolutely. I know 4 photographers and they're shot. Well, anyway, this is
we fight about that.
Yeah, we fight about that. That's okay.
No.
My point to that is going, if you are willing to spend that amount of money, why are you willing to spend that amount of money when you don't know what to do with the shots when they're done? And my producing partner said, here is why. Because actors want to be pretty. And unfortunately, I want to be pretty. There are Instagram filters to be pretty. There is nothing wrong with being pretty. My shots on Instagram. If I don't like my pose, not posting it. That's being pretty. Right. It is. It's okay to want to be pretty. But if you are not doing the business side of things, you become one of the people that all they regurgitate are the complaints. It's impossible to get an agent. It's impossible to get this. It's impossible. And all the scripted shows are prepackaged. So why do it anyway? And I go, shitty game of Monopoly. Mm-hmm. It was like, unfortunately, artists sit down at that shitty game of Monopoly and complain about the rules. And fortunately, the rules are changing, especially for people of color. And we've talked about that. We've sort of talked about that rule.
Again, whole nother Zoom.
Whole nother Zoom.
Like with everything going on, I did want to touch base on that too. I love that you guys just segue me into everything. I did want to touch on that though, because and you guys kind of have this great balance. You see both sides of it, and with everything going on, I feel like even just going through Backstage, I have a membership for Backstage and I'm always going through there now. During the pandemic, I really wasn't, just because everything was going on and nothing was open. There was no productions, rarely, legally at least. And now that they started back up, I feel comfortable enough to submit for something, knowing that if they require me to take a test, which almost every single production is requiring a negative COVID test, I'm willing to do those things. I'm willing to wear a mask on set. I'm willing to get out around people, even if it's a small amount of people on set. But with everything going on, I do see a lot more on the castings, for example. It'll include minorities a lot more than I was seeing before. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I like the idea of it just being done because they need to fill a quota or something like that. And I kind of also try not to go there because I'm like, well, we want more of it. If they're giving us more, let's take it. But how do you feel, and maybe Gabrielle, you can answer to this, but how do you feel, you've been navigating this industry that we like to call it for so long. How do you feel, especially as a woman and a minority, how those roles kind of reflect on you?
Yep. It's an interesting balance. Say for instance, when I moved to LA, that was, end of 2006 when that happened. I moved there with mostly a musical theater background. So I was like, okay, there's some great regional theaters out here. Let me just start going in for them, blah, blah, blah. And I would find myself, I have a great resume. I go in and I do my stuff and they're like, ooh, this girl, and not to mention I was just new. So everybody was like, ooh, who's she? Call her back, blah, blah, blah. And I would get down to the end to the ends and the ends and the ends and the ends. And then nothing. And I was like, what? Like, I was kind of like, wait a minute, not tooting my own horn, but I was like, I smashed that. Are you kidding me? And then I started to really start looking at what shows they were doing. And also because I moved their equity. And in most regional theaters, maybe they'll have 3 contracts and they're all going to the lead. And if they're doing, let's say, Little Shop, at that point, the 3 leads were white. 100% there was no chance one of those urchins were getting an equity contract. There was no chance in hell. So, and then, if they were doing maybe Hairspray, I'm not right for Motormouth. I could cover her maybe, but I'm not right for her. So I'm not going to get that one equity contract they might give out if they decide to. So then you fast forward to now where I am trending like a mofo. Wonderful blessings of last week. I had 3 2 commercials and a green screen musical that I shot in 1 week. It was magical, and
She booked a really big commercial with Kevin Bacon. Sorry.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I like to brag.
Airing in Britain, though.
Well,
But
he's
I'm not letting it go
their
others.
version of our AT&T and
yes,
Progressive.
it's like one of those commercials.
Oh,
So it'll be great
like,
once things start rolling.
we know when this is like,
But I have decided to take and embrace both sides of it. Yes, it probably is happening right now because they have to fill a quota.
Yeah.
It probably is happening because some exec was like, oh shit, we've screwed up for a very long time and we need to fix this.
Yeah.
Change that role to Black, that role to Latina, that one to blah, blah, that one to East Indian, that one to blah, blah, blah. And they're just changing it, and great. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to embrace it. But I'm also going to take and I'm going to embrace with the fact that people are actually just opening their eyes.
Yeah.
Whether or not it had to do with Black Lives Matter at all, I'm hoping that somebody somewhere before, like literally the day before Black Lives Matter really became a thing, they were like, oh, I saw this project. This would be really great. There's a Latina lead role or a Black girl lead role, blah, blah, blah. This would be great. Let's do it. Green light, go. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that it's a little bit of both, that the worlds were just colliding, and unfortunately it took a worldwide movement for it to snowball.
But that snowball
really
leads to Lovecraft Country.
Yes. Yeah.
So
amazing things like that.
And that's
obviously that was probably well in production before that happened. Well,
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, well going before that. But
it's
however,
a Black female showrunner.
Yeah, it took somebody's vision to go, and then it happened to be landing in this time, giving people with eyes wide open, they're sucking it all in. So I'm personally taking both sides and embracing it, honestly.
Yeah. There's also another funny kind of sense of humor about like things are going, this is our humor. I'm like, God, if we didn't have a sense of humor, we would not survive this shit. Okay. So she's killing it. And I mean like killing it to the point of killing it. But she can't get an Atlanta agent to take a look at her. This is a woman with television credits up the wazoo, commercials up the wazoo, bookings up the wazoo.
I've submitted people like 3-4 times. I have friends that have submitted me to their agents. Radio silence.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm a local hire there.
because we have
my family lives there.
So like once again, like if you're the actor on the other side in going, but that doesn't make any sense. Why aren't they looking at her? The funny part about this is I don't even think you want the answer, because I don't think there is one, because sometimes the answer doesn't make any sense. And it's for reasons that are so stupid. Yeah. It's like if a guy or a girl breaks up with you and you like want the reason of why it happened, and then you get the reason and you're like, that was a shitty reason. And you're like, redheaded Asian. That should be the title.
Not knowing.
That should be the title of this interview. Yeah. Redheaded Asian. And everyone tunes in. It's like, there wasn't a redheaded Asian involved in it. Right. So, and that's part of the of like also where you're getting your information from. We are surrounded by, fortunately, some extremely successful actors in the Broadway and television film world. One of our good friends is the lead in West Side Story. That's, Steven Spielberg's next thing. So if I'm looking for advice, if I'm looking for, a mentor group, make sure that's your mentor group. Yeah. But also, that doesn't mean that they're a positive person. That's the other thing. It's like, just because somebody has a laundry list of things, they could be giving you the worst piece of advice you've ever heard. Like, I love this one because I just love this freaking story. So when she moved to Los Angeles, she was repped by this major Broadway agency, okay? And they had a commercial division that was like on fire. Now, mind you, I'm the fiance being like, I was killing it in the commercial world because obviously 15 years ago, white guys were in, white guys are not in right now.
Wait, what?
His white guy is not in
my
right
white
now.
guy, the 6'1", like find me a 6'1" white male that's outside of a beer commercial, and I will be shocked. Okay.
Well, you're in. You may not be in the rooms that
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
you know what I'm talking about.
So she literally not begs, but like asks her equity agent at the time if I could get an interview with the commercial department. They obviously set it up.
They were
Okay?
like, oh
Yeah.
come in, meet.
They bring her in, okay? They ask her all these questions. Oh my God, you've got all these credits. Right? Then this is what they said. This is why you have to have a good camp. They went, you just haven't done any commercials. So we're going to recommend that you take a couple of commercial classes before we even consider taking one. She is like defeated. What, I've been on Broadway and you're telling me that I need a commercial class? Okay. She comes home. She tells me the story. Like smelling a bad fart. I was like, what was that? And I went, no. I called my commercial agent at the time, set her up a meeting. She immediately met with her. She happened to love Broadway people. She was like, oh my God, you've done Broadway. She's like a Broadway,
She actually was an ex-Broadway dancer.
Ex-Broadway dancer. She immediately signs her. The next week, she had 4 auditions. She got put on a veil for one. She booked one of them. It was a Super Bowl national commercial for FedEx and made over $30,000. And aired for 2 years.
Did you ever go back to the other person to say, hey?
No, because and that's
worth it.
There's a part of us.
Like,
there's a part
of course,
us.
I told my agents, and I was like, nailed it. And they were like, oh my God, so great, blah blah blah. So they might have told them, for all I know. But
there's a part of us that wants to do that. I have an inner shady, petty person. Like I am such the person that sends the postcard of the Emmy. Like I'm just, we all think that we're going to do that, but in truth, when you get there, you found that you've not only moved on, but you're in a different space. You're in a different person. That piece of advice is great for a story because every single Viola Davis, every single Paul Giamatti, every single person that we know of, I always forget the name of the girl who played the crazy girl in Orange is the New Black.
Uzo Aduba.
Yes, I still can't remember it. Okay, and I'll get better at that. But every one of those has a multiple stories of being told you're not only not right for this, but I don't think that you should consider. Meryl Streep had that famous black and white photo of her riding the subway, and the director told her that she wasn't pretty enough to be a leading lady, blah, blah, blah. We, of course, look back on that and we go, that is so fucking insane. Yeah. It's insane. But what you have to realize is that for every 100 stories that we know that somebody succeeded, there's 100,000 that listened. Yeah. That's the crazy part about this, is that yes, it feels good to point out Meryl Streep and all these great stories, and Viola talks about having, $3 left in her bank account and going on her last audition or whatever it is. But you have to remember, artists sign up for being rejected their entire life.
Yes.
That's what we sign up for. Mm-hmm. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's so terrible. I mean, us going to a performing arts school, no academics, literally our classes were jazz, tap, ballet, musical theater, acting, and voice production and speech. Those were our classes.
We kind of don't know how to do anything else. We've joked about that. We were like, if I ever quit as an artist, we went, I don't know what I would do.
I don't.
Looking through your bag, what else is in here?
Nothing.
I've done precision driving, so maybe I'll work for UPS. Maybe.
No, not UPS.
But here's the thing. Any sane person, I kid you not, 24 hours ago, I was sitting in my thoughts going, I could drive for FedEx. I mean, it's not, you'd have to be crazy to not think that. And that's something that we sort of go through, especially, in these times. And once again, you could have an entire other interview thing on the announcement that they made that Broadway's not coming back until May of next year. That's not a start date. That's a
look at the world and see what's happening date.
Let's give people hope.
It could literally be that Broadway doesn't come back until the end of 2021. And that reality is terrible and horrible and awful. And it's why we check in with our friends. It's why that we tell people that it's okay to not be okay. Yep. It's okay to be sad. And it's okay that your win was that you took a walk for that day. Yeah. And we've had so many days where it was us taking Dash for a walk to the park was our win. Yeah. for the day. Yeah.
And that's real, because I have definitely had my days. I have a few friends of mine that thank God, I have amazing people. I have an amazing circle who they check in and they're there for me, and I can't ask for anything more. But there's some times where they're like, hey, how's your day? And I'm like, really good. Like, really, why? You know, what's going on? What's new? What happened? And I'm like, nothing. I spent the morning with my nephew. Like, I love my nephews. They're literally my world. And I'm like, I spent the morning with my nephew. I made a cup of coffee. It's great weather out. I went for a walk, or I had an amazing workout. And I'm noticing, and that's the biggest thing I say about artists, especially actors. I always say, you know, a lot of people tend to think that when you say, oh, I'm an actor, I do acting, they think your life is just hustle bustle between auditions and meetings and sets. And we have a lot of downtime. We have a lot of downtime. Now, our downtime might even be like a whole day in the bed on your laptop, submitting, getting back to emails, or updating your website, or saying, you know what, my hair changed. I need to schedule a new headshot session. Now looking through headshot photographers, like the last one I did was in LA. I'm probably not going to be in LA for a little while right now, so I have to look for someone in New York. You know, I cut my hair. My hair was down to my butt. Now it's growing fast, but whatever. I cut it. So I was like, I need a new headshot. There's just so much. So I always tell people, you know, it's okay to just take some time for yourself. Yeah. And especially with this pandemic, it's taught us so much. And I always say, find other things to do. Like, find something you're passionate about. Find a hobby. I'm starting to get into voiceover. You know, things have been a little slow with the film and TV thing that I pursue, but I'm like, I did a podcast for a while. I have this show. People tell me I have a great voice. Let me see what voiceover is about. There's always something to dabble in. And we're always looking for something, right? I feel like with us, we're always just like, what's next? Like, we just see the world as this one big thing that we can just take from and that we can also give to. So I did want to ask you, Gabriella, I saw that you posted a booking for a musical in September.
Yeah, the one that I just shot. Is there not?
No, for the Scrooge.
Oh yeah, for Scrooge. Yeah. That was random. We were actually on vacation visiting my mom, and I got that audition, and I was like, okay, let's do it. But yeah, it's like the first fully green screened movie musical. From what I can understand, like, imagine like Polar Express, but like the people are live action. I think it's going to be really, really beautiful. And they were so amazing, figuring out COVID madness. Pretty much every single creative person was on Zoom, except for the two like camera operators or there was a camera operator and sort of an assistant editor kind of guy in the green screen box with me. But that was it. That was literally it. And the same thing is like how you were saying, I was tested about 3 to 4 days before. I got my negative results, and then I was on set probably 2 days later, or a day or 2 days later, something like that. And every single person who stepped on that set had to go through that same process every however long. Like the girl that was the lead that actually plays Scrooge, I think she was tested probably once a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was tested often because she was going back and forth, going there many times. So that was just it was literally just a crazy experience. Just to be back working again was really, really refreshing and really wonderful. And especially for musical theater, because I just don't have any idea when that's going to happen again.
Yeah. And also not judging what you thought something was going to be. So she gets this audition, and of course, how can you really describe something that's never been done before?
Never been done.
Right. So it's like, here's the part. Gorgeous part. I love the part that they actually gave you. She auditioned for a set of twins, and one was normal and one was crazy. And I mean, like, this woman's so freaking funny. It's like phenomenal.
Wait,
and so
the twins?
Well, the original part that I went in for, and I didn't end up getting that one. They ended up bringing me in for a different role. But the role that I originally went in for was twins, and it was the same person playing both of them.
Oh, I love that.
Kind of thing. So it was just fun to
like Army Hammer
create on that.
Social Network.
Right. It was just super fun to even just create on that.
It's a great example.
Audition tape.
Yeah. And so she books it, right? And then you don't know what that actually is. And then I'm like, well, cool. Let me know like what happens. She does the first Zoom with like the cast and crew, and she was like, oh my God, there are some heavy
hitters, like the Broadway one percenters. they
one percenters.
Like it's Betsy Wolfe and Danny Bernstein and Carolee Carmello, and like just ridiculously amazing, seasoned, delicious humans. And you're just like, I'm just literally like, I'm in the Zoom where it is happening. It was just
amazing.
I think that's a great example of going, you don't kind of know what something is going to be. You just, like you said, you're a professional auditioner. So you do your best. And
That's amazing. So that's already done, or?
Soon to be. I believe they might have like a week or two left. I only had one shoot day. I'm basically in the chorus. I only had one shoot day, so I think they might be finishing maybe this week, I think. And as far as I know, it's supposed to be out around just after Thanksgiving, as far as I know. Okay. And I think it's going to be on Musicals on Demand first, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But fingers crossed.
Holiday season's coming up. I love that.
Of course.
That's like the best. There's so many like holiday commercials going around right now. Like I went to go see what I could submit to, and there's a lot of photo shoots and commercials, and I'm just like, I love that season. Like holiday season for me is definitely one. I know you guys have the little one running around now, so that's going to be exciting.
Yes. Yeah. We're still trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do for that at all. Because we were thinking about going down to visit my mom, but then I'm trying to convince her to come to us also, because it would just be a lot easier. Traveling with him is a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can be.
Yeah.
How old is he?
16 months.
16 months.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's definitely like depending on who you fly on, flights can be pretty empty and stuff, or even just traveling by car might be a better option if it's possible. But
yeah, we did over the summer. We went down to surprise my mom for her birthday, and we drove. And that was awesome. It was so good just to get out of Dodge, spread your wings a little bit. Yeah,
great, definitely. So I don't know if you guys have seen the usual that I do on this show, but let's see here. Okay. I normally do rapid fire questions where I kind of just throw random questions out and you kind of choose. But we have two of you here today. Okay. So double trouble. I kind of wanted to put it against, like, you guys, not against each other. That sounds wrong.
Oh, we're ready. We're ready, though. We're ready.
Competitive.
But I kind of want to see, it's kind of just like blurt out the answer to the question. So I'm going to ask you a few things. Try to answer really quick. Like, I don't want anyone thinking too much. And I kind of want it to be where, like, you don't know who's going to say what.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Ready.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wiggle it out a little bit. I usually do that with everyone. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hardest thing about marriage?
Communication.
Yeah.
He's like, who said I love you first?
We argue about that.
Oh, I don't know if we remember.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually remember.
Yeah, but we did lip the words wow when we first saw each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh.
We don't remember that, and we don't remember our first kiss either.
Right. Yep.
What?
You don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go back to that. Who has less patience?
I do.
Oh. I thought it was opposites for a second. Okay, you both agree. Who cooks more?
Me.
You. I can't.
He can't, literally.
Yeah. I'll burn your eggs.
Yeah.
Who's more OCD?
Me.
You.
Who has the worst temper?
Me.
You.
Who's more likely to skydive?
Me.
Really?
Oh.
Okay. I thought you would think it was me. Okay.
So wait, who?
We both said us.
Yeah.
Like both of us.
And we won't get off. Like, I still think no matter what you're honoring, you can't make a case. Me.
Okay. Who's more spontaneous?
Ty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picky or eater?
You.
I was gonna say you.
What?
Yes.
Nathan, you never know what anything is.
Fight.
Well, one day we were in Italy and we were at like this little like kind of tapas restaurant. And he was like, "I'll just have the fromage, blah blah blah." I was like, "You do realize you just ordered an entire plate of cheese?" And he was at this moment being like kind of a little bit like worried and blah blah blah. And I was like, That's not a salad.
By whatever do you mean?
It's a whole plate of cheese. He was like, "Oh, can I have the menu? You never know what anything is."
How exactly did I do it?
Yeah, oh, can I have the menu?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Like that.
I love that. That's like me when I work out and then I come home to like a whole pie of pizza. My sister's like, really? But didn't you just do like a whole workout? And I'm like, yeah.
And you say you shut up when you're talking to me. That's when you look right at the person. That's why all my Facebook posts are like, it's easy to eat healthy. And they're like, sir, that's a plate of cookie dough. It's like, you shut up.
Shut up when you're talking to me. I love it. Thank you guys so much. This has been really fun. I kind of want to end with just one thing. If you had, and I want both of you to give like your own take, obviously, but if you had one piece of advice, there's a million things that we can tell people. This is something that you really only pursue if it's like really, truly a passion of yours, because you're going to work at it every single day. But if you had one little piece of advice from your experience so far that you could give to any other actor, especially somebody who might just be starting out, what would it be?
You want to take that one?
Mine would be just constantly asking yourself how bad you want it, I think, because again, this industry you don't choose this industry chooses you. No matter how much you try to walk away from it, sometimes there are just little things that keep kind of pulling you back in sometimes, and you have to just ask yourself, is this really what I want? Is this really where I want to be? Going to a performing arts college with all of these girls that had, like you said, they'd already done so many jobs. They'd already had, one girl was already equity. One girl had been working since she was like 3. She was like young Cosette in the, Les Mis tour, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, holy crap. But however, I'm one of 3 people from an 80-person class still here doing it. And everyone else is back home doing whatever they're doing, blah, 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 living their dreams, but they're not living this one. Right. And the only difference is that I wanted it more. Yeah. That's the only difference. And I just think if you are incredibly certain with that, you will figure out what your lane is. You'll figure it, and I think you'll figure it out quickly because you'll want to figure it out. Same thing as you do with anything else. If you want that slice of pizza, you're gonna get that slice of pizza. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with this. So yeah.
I think that mine is, and there's a trap in this, but this is the piece of advice that I sort of give, is wherever you are at, no matter if you've had one audition in the last year, okay, there is someone in the world that would kill to be in your position. And that's something that we have to remind ourselves on our fitness journey, on our whatever journey that you possibly can have, is when you break it all down, being grateful for wherever you're at. There's and the reason why I said there's a trap in that is I don't like the whole mantra of like, looking at a person that doesn't have a home and being like, oh, well, at least I'm not that person. That's not the truth. That's the sort of the negative side of things, but of everything that I've sort of experienced, of the films that I've produced and the TV shows that I've been involved in, and even our relationship, is that I go, how many people would love to be where I'm at right now with everything, and being appreciative and grateful and acknowledging what you are grateful for. That can actually change your life. Is what am I grateful for? Taking 2 minutes every single day and just being like, what am I grateful for? And just saying it out loud, because even, Tony Robbins talks about how being grateful can change your mindset, because you almost can't be negative.
Yeah. And I think that's everything. I think, especially with people that I talk to, I've noticed that I keep people around that don't necessarily have something to give to me, but even mentally, if I can take something away from you, or if I can learn something from you, and then same thing with me, I want to make sure that whoever I'm friends with or whoever I hang around, that I'm able to give something, that I'm able to teach you something, or I'm able to, give you a shoulder to lean on. I think that's really important. And being appreciative, definitely. I think, for a lot of us, you guys said, if I get 5 auditions in 2 months, listen, if I get one audition, like I was ecstatic the other day because I had that audition, because I just started submitting like 2 weeks ago. I said, okay, now production is up. I have not gotten a COVID test and I'm really scared of it, but I'm willing to do it for what I love. So if I have to do that to be on set, I'll do it 5 times.
Yeah.
So I just say, like, if I have just one audition, I'm happy. And I feel like it went amazing. I did it. I'm letting it go. And if I get a call back, amazing. We all know, like you said, Nate, that's the easiest part, right? You go in there, they're directing you, you're doing your thing, you're bringing the best you. That's the easy part. The hardest part is getting over your nerves, getting in front, especially on Zoom now. Like this pandemic has taught us how awkward Zoom auditions can actually be.
Such a kooky thing.
Yep.
It's so weird.
Yep, because there's no emotional connection,
Yeah.
even though you're like literally trying to send emotion.
Yeah, there is something about being in the room with that person.
Yes.
It's very interesting, but
It goes back to it being the energy. I feel like it's about the energy. It's about all of that. Like I remember, like I told you, it was the grocery store clerk, right? That's what I was auditioning for. And I just went 2 steps ahead. I'm like, you know what? I'm not in person. I'm not going to be able to look these people like directly into their eye. Cause like through Zoom, everything's just, so I'm like, let me grab some bags. I got like these makeup remover wipes and stuff. And I was like, let me just have things ready. Let me try to make this as vivid as I can. Yeah. So it was super funny because you kind of mentioned this earlier, but like they were apologizing. They're like, we're so sorry. This is so awkward. Like, thank you for being patient with us. And I'm like, thank you guys for having me. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So when they asked me to kind of make pretend something, I was like, well, can I have these plastic bags like I can use? And they're like, oh, you don't have to go looking for, I was like, no, I already have them. And they're like, wow. They're like, like absolutely use them. And like, thank you for being prepared, like taking the extra few steps. And I'm like, you know what? This whole situation has taught us so much. And I kind of just want to end with that. I want to just remind you guys, I know you don't really need this reminder, but just be kind to one another, be kind to one another, lean on one another, help each other. And in a world where everything is so complicated and in the air, I just feel like a little bit less of what we see on TV every day, a little less of the yelling and the hate and the splitting sides and all of that stuff, and just, remembering who we are and what we do this for. I think that's really important. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules. And I am surprised that Dash did not wake up during all of this.
He just started to rustle. And
okay, there you go.
Yeah, so yeah, you nailed it.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. This has been fun.
Of course.
Yeah, we'll end this way. Ready? Thanks, girl.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk.
Bye-bye.